Sure. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tillamook County Housing Commission on the morning of September 4th. And I'm just gonna get us rolling here with introductions. And I'm gonna start with Parker this morning.
Hey, real quick, can I get a sound check from anyone online? Corin, can you hear us okay? We're good? Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Parker Sammons. I'm the Tillamook County Housing Coordinator.
And I'm Michelle Yank, the large business representative representing Adams, South Tillamook.
Chris Wilkes, Development Committee. Rich Brackey, local.
We invited our guests, our audience to come sit with us today because we felt a little lonely. Carrie Fleischer, Chair of the Commission.
Esther North County Rep.
Sarah Dental, Real Estate Community Representative.
Gail Uzel, South County at large.
And I do see some housing commissioners online. Megan Carpenter.
Good morning, Megan Carpenter, City of Tillamook representative.
I see Commissioner Scar.
Good morning, Erin Scar, Tillamook County Commissioner.
Good morning. And Parker, can you help me with the other
Oh, sure.
names, please?
I think it is these three up here now. So Sean,
Yeah, hi, I'm just a resident of Civic City.
Great, thank
Thanks
you
for
for
joining.
coming.
and then we got Note here, and then
Jackie.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Jackie Pewitt. I'm working for Colpack now. They're a new program coordinator. So I'll be replacing Lydia when she departs at the end of September.
Great, thank you. Corin.
Morning, I'm Corin Karlovic. I'm the project manager for the Houseless Action Network with CARE.
Good morning. Well, thank you for everybody for joining us. And I'm going to pass this over to Mark for our mission minute.
Right, so does anyone have any updates of things that have been happening housing wise?
One of the things the outreach committee will be sharing is, was shared out by the Tillamook Chamber of the Main Street grant that's awarded. Chris maybe could speak more to that, I don't know. Maybe not.
There was one awarded for, the project on Second Street, the First National Bank building, so between that money and the money that he was awarded through the Housing Commission, we have temporary power being put in upstairs in the next week or two, and we'll start working on apartments probably within a month.
Wow,
Great.
Pretty big
yeah,
minute.
yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I have one that I don't think the Housing Commission may know, that the Thompson Springs project, which was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission, has passed its appeal point, and there was no appeal.
That is,
That's great.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that.
yeah.
It was appealed, but it has passed and he has been ready to move forward.
Always
Such a
like
cool story.
that base.
State city development. So.
Yeah, great.
And this, I think, just goes to show that our advocacy as housing commission members does have an impact. And so thank you to everybody that has gone to these public hearings and weighed in with testimony on behalf of the commission.
All right. Now is the time for our public comment. Is there any members of the public that would like to make comment this morning? Feel free, if you're online, if you'd like to raise your hand. All right, well, you'll have another opportunity at the end of our meeting. So if there's something on your mind then. Next, we're going to pass it over to Parker for our housing coordinator report.
great. Thank you. So there's some upcoming events I wanted to share. I've talked about this, the 2025 Northwest Oregon Housing Summit with Colpack will be held on September 22nd in Astoria. I'm going to send out an email at the end of the meeting with a registration link to anybody who would like to come and join. We'll be having a lot of great topics. I don't know if Jackie wants to talk anything about it or make any pitch for joining the Colpack Housing Summit, but I would love to see anybody who'd like to attend. If you'd like more information, you can email me or check the link that will be coming in at the end of the meeting.
Great.
The next up, CERTA. We've talked a lot about this for a long time. We have gotten all of the materials to DEQ. The ball is in their court for helping us to get the program 100% launched, but everything is signed. That program will be going live. Again, that is the $3.5 million, $3.6 million that Tillamook County got for the space efficient housing through the DEQ program from the EPA. Anybody have any questions about CERTA or where that's at? Or I guess I'll just keep you guys posted as we get to actually operationalizing it. But largely that will be because they have technical advisors on staff as part of that program. My job will really be to connect them with the advisors, each program or each project to the advisors, and they will then help them make sure that their project is eligible and that they're following all of the requirements. So it's a pretty simple and straightforward program, and I'm really excited for it to get off the ground.
And when it goes live, is there gonna be probably an outreach? So
Yeah.
that way we can,
We already did begin that process.
Yeah,
Posted.
We posted that the funds had been received and that we had assigned for them essentially. I think what we'll do is have a tab on our website for a portal to all the CERTA information.
great,
And also CERTA, probably DEQ, took some of their funding and put it into outreach materials. And so we will have professionally generated, very consistent outreach materials coming our way. So that's one of the things we're waiting for, is for them to provide those with us. I was expecting them a little while ago, but summer, August, you know how it goes, I suppose. So as soon as those are in our hands, we'll be sharing them out, and I'll send a packet of all of that to each housing commissioner when DEQ gets it to us. Next up is, any other questions about CERTA before we move on? Next up is Merle. Merle, I've shared with you a white page that Sarah wrote.
You might want to just describe the acronym.
Yes, thank you. The Moderate Income Revolving Loan Fund. This was a program that has been in the works for a long time now. And to give you guys an idea of how it works, this is a tax abatement program plus that is backed by the state of Oregon with a 0% interest loan. So the project will get an assessment on what 10 to 15 years of their tax abatement or their tax liability would be. So to use some round numbers to describe this, if a project had a tax liability of $100,000 every year, if they submit and are approved for a MERL grant, the county, in this case, the sponsoring jurisdiction, would be given a loan, a 0% interest loan from the state of Oregon for the same amount as 10 to 15 years of the tax liability of that particular project. And the project then pays taxes as normal, but it is used to repay the loan to the state of Oregon. So it's similar to our workforce housing tax exemption in that there's 10 years of tax relief. But in this case, the project gets all of that tax relief given to them up front in a lump sum. And then they pay taxes as normal to pay back the loan. There is a carve out so that the jurisdiction, the sponsoring jurisdiction, gets 5% of the tax of the program fee. This is a very complicated thing. Give me a moment. The loan they give, the state gives to these sponsoring jurisdictions 106% of the tax liability, and that 6% is to be paid back as a fee for running the program, so that the sponsoring jurisdiction is spending money to administer this program. The project itself is paying for the administrative overhead, is a way to look at it. Then over the years, the project pays back that to the county through taxes. County pays back the state. Eventually, the loan is paid off and the taxes continue to be paid normally. Merle also has an important caveat, and that is that every project that applies for it must demonstrate a but-for statement. And that but-for statement means that without the Merle funding that's available, the project would not be built, meaning that this is the last mile funding. So Merle can only be used to be the last dollars into a project to get them across the line. And I think that's an important thing to understand about Merle, is that you really have to either be in a place where you have all of your funding stacked saved for what your tax liability would be over the course of a Merle program. And you have to demonstrate that there isn't other funding sources for this type of project that you could go out and get. So last week I briefed the board on Merle, the Board of County Commissioners, and got some feedback from them. And I've been preparing a draft resolution or ordinance to get this initiated. And once initiated, we will then work with OHCS to develop a master agreement that will include the details of our program. The commissioners, and the feedback I'm getting is that we would like to have the Housing Commission kind of be the first stop for a project that is looking to partake in a Merle, and that they will need a letter of support or some demonstration of support from the Housing Commission in order for that to go forward. Every project that participates in the Merle requires a special resolution or ordinance for that particular project to take place in Merle. So there's several steps that need to happen for, and several reviews that need to happen for a Merle project to go from initiation all the way up. I have Merle eval, this Merle eval conversation on my agenda, so I'm just going to slide right into that, if that's all right. So there are so many steps of review on this Merle journey for any particular project, including a very fine-tooth comb review by OHCS at the end. So the order of operations, as we are envisioning it right now for our program, would be a project would come to the Housing Commission, present their project, have us ask questions, and they are seeking a letter of support for their project to then be kicked up to getting its own special resolution or ordinance to partake in the project. So the Housing Commission's role in this would be in the same way that we visit with all of the projects that come for our Housing Production Solutions Fund, to have a conversation with them, understand their project, make sure it fits within the parameters and is eligible for a Merle program, and kind of do that first step review before sending it up to the commissioners to also kind of have their conversation and potentially engage in a resolution or ordinance, and then send the program to OHCS. OHCS then does their fine-tooth comb review and really takes a look at that but-for statement to make sure that that is accurate and true. And then finally, that is when the 0% interest loan to the county would be generated and the grant process would begin to get their Merle money in hands. We in Tillamook County have 2 projects that are at the correct stage of construction, can both demonstrate a but-for statement, and are both nonprofit projects. Both Sammy's Place and the Tillamook Bay Commons projects have been identified as prime Merle targets. So we're getting a lot of support from Regional Solutions and iSector and a lot of people who have been working on Merle for a long time to help us get into ring jurisdiction. Oh, is that the TV? Okay, you all can probably, okay, hey, we're back. It's our traditional TV turn off break. So that is kind of the process of Merle. The memo in front of you lays out a lot of these details and what we are doing to get this operational and ready. For now, we're trying to just get this done at the county level because we have the two active projects within the county. Anybody have any idea what's happening here? TV reset.
Oh, you're back. You're-
Okay. Sorry, everybody online. I'm having some technical problems. Okay.
Oh, Dave has his hand up.
Dave, yes.
Do you need a motion to move this forward, the memo forward?
No, this is purely informational. The next step will be getting a resolution or ordinance passed to initiate that master agreement process. Through that process, I'll be keeping you guys updated and basic feedback. Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
thank you.
Maybe it's working on your end.
I think it is all working on the table like it, so I'm gonna.
Just to be clear, that these are right now, the county council's ordinance, it would only be applicable to projects within or outside of city boundaries.
That's correct. And both of the projects that we're talking about for Merle is for areas that are in UGBs, but outside of city limits right now, which does make the county the sponsoring jurisdiction. There was a bit of a question on that, whether or not it would be the city whose UGB it is within. But that does mean that we're going to be working extra close with the city of Tillamook to make sure that if they do adopt a Merle program, that it mirrors ours. We've talked to OHCS about what happens when that note transfers from being part of the county to being part of the city. And it doesn't seem like that will be a problem if it transfers. If the city decides to annex this property that has a Merle on it, we wanted to make sure that that wouldn't upset or call the note in. So we've been trying to do a lot of background here. And one of the reasons we are encountering these problems is that we are one of the first. There's only 3 counties right now who are, or 3 jurisdictions who are engaged in the Merle process.
So
Well, you know, so 2 things about the Merle. One, so that's a $75 million fund. $50 million is there right now, ready to go. In a couple of years, they get $25 million more. But 10 million of that is a carve out for rural areas. And so we definitely have our eye on that prize. It is first come, first serve. And the, what was the last little caveat on that? One of the things that is hampering this program is its complexity. So out in our area, we only have so many taxing districts to think about when we do something like tax abatement. But if you go into more metro areas, they have so many line item taxes that they have to consult with the libraries, everything, on and on and on. They have a lot of taxes applied, and we're doing abatement for that is a lot more complicated process than out here where we only have a few taxing jurisdictions. On that note, fire is exempt from this. So any project that is engaged in a Merle will still pay their fire taxes, which is something we've been working with the assessor to make sure we can do and is possible and how it works. The assessor is working with a greater group of assessors to make sure that like things like the software that we use can interpret and understand how to pull out fire taxes and pay them separate in that capacity. So Merle's a very thoughtful, but definitely designed by committee kind of program. And it is the state's big, powerful tool for moderate income, but it doesn't only apply to middle income. Moderate income.
It appears we've lost them again.
All right, let's hear the song Freeze Frame. Well,
We'll just chill for a minute. We'll go ahead and text Parker and see if he knows that we're gone.
I just texted him, Aaron,
Oh, did you? Good. Okay.
but it says, my phone says that his phone is turned off. Or
Mine
silent.
says this. It says he has notification silenced. Let's see who else was in the room that we have a text message for.
Oh, it
Let's
looks
see.
like he dropped the call, so maybe
He did.
sorting.
So hopefully they're probably rebooting whatever the system error is. So we'll wait.
I've noticed across the county that our internet has not been very good at all. It can, and usually it is like up here where I live, but it goes out frequently now, and I don't know what's
We
going on.
had here at CARE, and we're right smack in the middle of Tillamook, since Thursday of last week, we've had our internet's been a mess. It's been really hit or miss. Like we've been out like entire days since last
Wow.
week. I thought it was just us, but maybe it's
Well, and you guys are on fiber, so that surprises me because we're on the same fiber you're on, and we have not been out.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't.
We're only
is.
across the street.
Yeah, I know. It's been nuts. Last Friday, the entire day, we were out of internet here.
Huh. Yeah, that doesn't make sense from the fiber provider. So I wonder if that's equipment or whatever.
well, we have weekends when we don't get it here at home, and I learned new 4-letter words for my daughter. So
Not good. Well, I know Spectrum was on my street when I drove home last night, but my internet was working. So I don't know because I've got Spectrum where I am in town.
Yeah, they're out at the port. I don't know.
They have fiber at the port. They have the
They
same
should
thing I
still,
have at
yeah.
the county. They have fiber. So I don't think it's got to be it's got to be equipment, not the actual fiber, because
That's
we're
what I
all on
figured
the
it was
same.
for us. I just figured it was something.
Yeah.
Just another kind of crazy day with people
Right?
growling in the hallway, and you're like, "What's going on?" It's,
Right.
well, today was the first day of school for my daughter in the 8th grade.
Woohoo!
Now she wants to be a marine biologist. So that, every year we hold up a
Good
different
for
sign.
her.
So
Good for
last year
her.
she wanted to be a billionaire. This year, marine biologist. So
Well, that's my daughter was in junior high. She didn't call it a marine biologist. She called it some kind of oceanographer or something. But I said marine biologist. But now she's out there training to be a physical therapist. So you're right. It's a passing fancy, right? But they make them do all this work in junior high, starting in before that, but really focusing in 7th and 8th grade on what are you going to be when you grow up. So they get real serious at that age.
Yep.
Isn't that just crazy though? I mean, it's just crazy. My goddaughter lives in Duluth, Minnesota, and she has a starting 2nd grade. So everybody's on social media holding up their pictures.
Yeah.
And I zoomed in on her picture just to see what her stats were. And it always has a line item of what I want to be when I grow up. And she put on there that she wanted to be an ice cream maker. So I put a comment. I said, "That's great. Tillamook County is always looking for good ice cream makers."
Oh, funny. Yeah, I thought I'd be a record producer working
there's
with
Parker.
rock and roll bands in Los Angeles.
Hello, everyone.
They're having fun.
Okay, glad you guys are having fun without us.
Yeah.
We were
great.
talking
Now you're
amongst
back.
ourselves.
Jeez.
Yeah, we were talking amongst ourselves. We're back. Sorry.
We had total technical collapse.
Perfect.
I had to hard reset the computer.
Great. Now class is starting again. Man.
I know, right?
So where'd you lose us? Oh, no.
Okay, I was.
Okay. It's like
Yeah, still moving.
everyone's still moving, everyone still hear us?
You're frozen, but we can see you.
Oh,
Oh, now we see your icon, Parker. We don't see the room.
okay, one sec.
Go to grade school.
How about now? Nope.
Just your icon. Now we see the room, but you're frozen. Oh, now you're unfrozen.
Hey.
To make it frozen.
All right. I think we are now working. I'm proceeding to not touch my table. You guys lost us a Gail's question, I believe.
What was Gail's question? Remind us.
You were asking about the projects under the Housing Production Solutions Fund.
Yeah, I'm asking about the relationship ultimately, for the applicant between the HOPS fund analysis and the Merle thing. It sounds like Merle would only come after HOPS because of the but-for.
That's correct. So somebody applying for the Merle would, in theory, either have an application in with us and have said that, hey, we need the Merle plus this other thing we are applying for, or would have already received one from us. Or maybe they don't actually need our housing fund and they can just do Merle. Merle might just be enough for their project. But the relationship between the two, you can get both in this case. It would be unlike, we would not see anybody who got a fund or got an award from us, who got a Merle, then come back and ask for anything else would be a very unlikely scenario.
And Parker, didn't we figure out that anything that qualifies for the Housing Production Solution Fund would need the criteria, I think, for the Merle?
Yes, provided that it was in a sponsoring jurisdiction and adopted a Merle. So once we get through this at the county level, I'll be going out to the cities and shopping this. I've already received a lot of interest from a couple cities to engage with this. Bay City is interested because they have a lot going on. Manzanita is interested because they see middle income, moderate income as housing that they still need.
So they would just do what the county is already in the process of finalizing.
Right.
As a city, so you can have multiple sponsoring jurisdictions within the county.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, but someone within the city could not use the county's program unless the city had also adopted their own.
So it won't just be managed by the county for the funding then.
No, and it's OHCS who really manages the funding. We are kind of the pass-through in this case. There is the consequence of this being a loan from the state to the jurisdiction. And even though it's a 0% interest loan, that still does have an input or impact on the books, on the balance. So other things is clawback provisions, similar to ours, but a little more strict and extreme on how much can be clawed back, and it is the program fees that can be clawed back. So it is not, but if in total collapse of a project, this whole program was designed to not land on the footsteps of the jurisdiction. So when they were crafting this, what they had in mind was a program where the city or the county would not be left holding the bag if there was a catastrophic failure in some sort of project. So it is designed that way and with that in mind. Yes, sorry, it's a lot to get your head around, I know. So we will be continuing to get this operational. I have a meeting right after this one to discuss the next steps and how we can do it. I think if there's anything else I want to make sure to really call out. Next steps. Okay, we'll. Yeah, there is a grant opportunity that OHCS will be putting out that we will be applying for to help us stand up this program for $100,000. And that will both help to smooth the whole thing out and get it going quickly. We, like I said, do have two projects that this is last mile funding for. So this is a big priority for me and Sammy's Place and the Tillamook Bay Commons project.
In terms of, like with the Housing Commission, what support would be helpful for you and so like to both that piece and then also like, where do you see our role in that, like as it moves forward?
So where I see that our role is how I am recommending we approach this at the county level and at the Housing Commission is we really write a letter of support for the project, recommending that the commissioners, or if the cities want to use a similar program, whatever jurisdiction they're in, we could be that first stop to have them come and ask us questions. Hopefully we'll be able to tell them, yes, you're eligible, or hey, you might need to talk to OHCS, or like, no, we don't do market rate housing with this. Whatever it is, whatever information they need. And we also want to evaluate it in the same way that we check for the values of other projects. You know, hey, are you going to be using local subs? Are you going to be using local materials? Are you, like, are you meeting, what is the need that you are meeting? And things like that. So we can do that sort of evaluation here, have a conversation, write a letter of support, and that will be the ticket for somebody to go before a city council or a commission in this concept, and then have it be reviewed at that level, because again, they need to have that ordinance or resolution for each individual project. So it is lawmakers who have to use legislation of some type to approve each individual project to take part in this. It's not like an open season program where if you meet X, Y, and Z, you just get to do it. It has a lot of prescriptive and checks, especially the deep financial dive on that but-for. So it is not as open-ended as some of the other programs we've talked about, like CERTA. Anybody who meets the requirements for CERTA, they just get to go and start the process. But this, because it requires so much citizen government involvement to get from where they are to where they need to be. The other thing is that when these projects come in, they need to be so far along that they can demonstrate a but-for statement, which means that we will only be seeing projects that have already done so much of the heavy lift that we're their last stop. So it shouldn't be as early on as we see some of our Housing Production Solutions Fund projects. These will be much more tight-knit, ready to go, or else they won't be eligible, essentially.
To clarify, are you basically the source of vetting on behalf of the sponsoring as an individual, like you're the staff person interfacing with the potential project developer?
I would be a kind of technical assistance and resource, but this is OHCS's program. And we're just a sponsoring jurisdiction taking part in it. So the people who'd be doing that heavy kind of dive will be OHCS.
Okay.
And they have multiple tutorial videos and special spreadsheets. So it's not an uninvolved process to do this. And you need to have a lot of pretty sophisticated data on your project to be able to get there.
Harper, could you remind me what OHCS stands for?
Absolutely. Housing and Community Services.
Thank you.
Sometimes they're referred to as HCS, as Housing Community
Yeah.
Services, but we throw that O,
Gotcha.
that's the state of
Thank you.
Oregon. But yeah, Merle is a very powerful tool, as you can imagine, 10 years of taxes, getting them upfront. This is a program that was originally designed for-profit developers to take part in. But we have these two nonprofit projects, which is kind of making people reevaluate some of the costs associated with this at the nonprofit level. But it is designed for that. But it's important to remember that things like tax abatement can come and be a tax consequence for-profit developers. So if you get this, it could be, depending on your structure, income that needs to be declared and paid taxes on from the developer's standpoint. Yeah. All right, I just talked a whole lot. Anybody have any more questions? Because I know there is a lot here. And this is something that we'll be coming back and talking more and more about, especially once we get to that master agreement stage. And I'll be keeping everybody updated here as we progress.
Can I jump back to the framework final draft?
Yes, I think that unless anybody has any other questions about the Merle conversation or how the Housing Commission would be potentially involved with that kind of letter of support. Is anybody uncomfortable with that?
Not yet.
Just from a taxing district standpoint, I mean, I'm just put on a different, my other end.
Absolutely. I thought you might have some questions.
Just, I understand that this is a, program providing tax exemption, but there is not necessarily an approval by the taxing districts to join the program other than the county, doing this. So I'm assuming that because of that, each individual applicant has to have a resolution. And so that way they're gonna be the gatekeeper, not to approve every single project that comes down the pipe to where it's gonna create a financial burden on taxing districts that might be limited on funding.
Yes, and there, there's various arguments you can make for and against it in this
Yeah.
case. What I would lean on is, with that but-for statement being a big part of this, it's going to be pretty easy to say, well, without this, nothing is going to happen, and so.
Means no taxes coming in.
Right, and if we look at the two projects who are going to apply for it right now, that is definitely the case with those, the land that they are planning on using. It has been unused in that sort of breadth of capacity. So it would be a pretty easy argument to make that, without this, we go back to whatever is there, or maybe a single family home gets there, but not anything like the kind of tax-based growth that would occur with this. There's also, it's not a total exemption. The district still does get that 5%.
The jurisdiction does, not
Yes.
necessarily distributed.
Right, there is some money flowing from the project, but only a small fraction comparatively, but that means it's not a burden on the system. And the assessor's office gets 1% specifically for them.
But your point is about the school district.
Like the school
Any
districts,
portion of
yeah,
that
that have
6%
six,
necessarily.
a large percentage of that tax base isn't gonna receive a dime until after the 15 years.
But again, to his earlier point, like looking at the property that the Tillamook Bay Commons is to be built on, that's been sitting vacant my entire 30+ years that I've lived here. So whatever taxes.
I just, and I think the way the program's designed, it's not gonna create such a huge burden on the taxing districts to lose out that time, because right now they are receiving something, just not everything. Like
Well,
the
they-
income.
Right, I think it's,
State's giving a loan that that money's still coming in, if I'm understanding.
It's just-
It's just coming straight to the project, you know, so the loan comes in, goes straight to the project, then comes back.
And the county
Yeah.
gets. And I also think this is like the long-term game, right? So
Yeah.
say there's 3 projects that come in and they increase the tax base over 15 years. 3 projects in that 15-year timeframe, then that money starts flowing into the school district.
Yeah.
Which would come in different, like your school district and all the other places that it goes. Right, that 15-year timeframe, if it just sat as vacant land, I mean, what it's taxed on is really, really limited. I don't know what the percentage is, but.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to raise that point.
It's important to discuss, because I mean, I just think this is complicated and people can't.
Erin?
Thanks. Yeah. And I was just going to say, in support of that sort of special district question, I think that's part of why a resolution or ordinance is required for each and every project, because there may be a project that comes through that the local elected say, I'm not willing to forego potential growth for this for 10 or 15 years, right? So there is that other checkpoint, and it's also a place where there will be public process because it has to be done by resolution or ordinance, which means it has to be done in a public meeting. And if there's a particular special district that says really, big heartburn, we know there's 2 pending maybe, and one is this one, which will cut our taxes. One is this one that won't cut our tax revenues. They might want to come and argue for the one that keeps taxes flowing, right? So that's that purpose, I think, of there being a public process related to each and every building opportunity. So.
Thank you.
So we do have some places in this program where the John sponsoring jurisdiction needs to make some choices, and I've been asked to make some recommendations. And one of them is on the 10 or 15-year question. I was asked to provide a way where it could be a sliding scale so that the projects that are creating housing that is in higher demand or need will be able to access the 15-year program, whereas projects that are more on the upper end of middle income would be limited to the 10 years of the program. So I'm saying that projects that are serving 80% and below AMI, or projects that are built within a nonprofit sector would be ones that could apply for the 15 years. All other eligible programs would be in the 10-year category. I'd love to have any feedback on that because I'm still working on this presently. Does that sound like about the right line for that kind of support?
Who's going to oversee that process? Because, I mean, we all know that you have a lot of spare time.
We're getting a OS2 in my office that's going to help me with some of the reporting, which will be great. But OHCS does have reporting requirements as well. And presumably any project that is operating in these spaces would have additional reporting requirements either to us for a Housing Production Solutions Fund or LIHTC or a home lift or something like that. So there will be so many different places, but in that process of approving a project or not, we'll understand what all their reporting is. But similar to us, there are pretty strict requirements to keep their affordability in place. And then the other thing about the MURL that's different is that it is, a revolving loan. So as soon as those projects get built and they start paying their taxes as normal, and that tax money is then sent back to the state to repay the loan, anytime they have over $2 million in that bank account, they need to have this open for application. And so this is a program where it can be used now and perpetually into the future, because that $75 million is going to be a static amount that is just going to be there growing and shrinking, but will be available and will not be leaving that ecosystem of the rural program. So this is something that will be for now and in the future, a powerful tool to help get housing built out here.
Well, I think that's like thinking about some of our role. I think education is probably going to be a big piece of this, because as we get to where we're understanding it, being able to communicate that with the special districts, being able to communicate that with the community, that is like, hey, these are some of the really good things that can come from this and the opportunity for continued growth.
Yeah. And I do in this case really appreciate that the fire district has the carve out and they still get theirs.
Yeah.
Tucker, on the education front, I wrote needs an infographic. Since they are creating collateral, can we request that?
I do have some materials
Okay,
that
great.
they're sharing out from OHCS. They have a whole program manual and a nice little infographic of like how the whole process starts and finishes.
Okay, super.
Yeah. Any questions online? All right, well, then I think we can switch over to the Housing Production Solutions framework. Anybody who needs it, this is on our website. This is, I hope, the final draft, but I'm here to solicit final feedback. I think a special note is to take a look at the timelines. Timeline is on the third page, I believe. Applications opening October 15th, closing December 31st. That is roughly the same schedule we had last year. But instead of trying to immediately swing into January and go, we'll be pushing it back. We'll be having our applications presenting in February. Apologies, my draft did not seem to save. Nope, I just was looking at mobile. Yes, so February 15th, the committee evaluation report to the commission. And March 5th for the allocation recommendation conversation. After that, it would be March 11th that I would present our recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. I'm trying to be a lot more clear and upfront about all of the times and dates to make sure that any developer has a reasonable expectation of when these things wrap up and how long they take.
And I do like on the first page where you given here's based on historical data, this is what has been awarded. I really like that, and then it's subject to change.
And then this highlighted
like it.
section, oh, pardon me.
Go ahead.
So yes, and subject to change. I did try to really make this vague, but like, here's something you can expect. I've just been having a hard time wordsmithing this, but we only give one award for pre-development to a project. When we wrote and agreed on that, we hadn't really considered that dreamer or initiation level grant. So I'm trying to find a way to make it clear that you can only get one of those. But it occurred to me in writing this that I wasn't sure how we felt about a project getting an initiation, then a pre-development, and then a construction grant. So one way I can say it is one of each. But I do know the construction is one that we've had people come back and ask for additional construction funding. So I kind of would like to workshop this last a little bit here. But aside from that, I'm pretty comfortable with everything else in here unless anybody has any feedback today.
Did we ever decide, and we mentioned a few times, I know personally, I think the presentation should be in person. I mean, we give up a lot of time to do this. I think it's only right that people are going for the fun, that they give up a little time to actually come face to face with us so we can have a conversation.
I would agree. I think that this is more of accessibility kind of issue. And when we ask people to come in person, we start to make it impossible for other people. I think that we're going to need to keep our hybrid format. But Chris, I will heavily encourage every applicant and let it be known that we really do prefer to meet you in person and come and say hi and talk with us about your project. But I don't think that I can make it a condition. And I don't think I can make it part of our evaluation. We can't give extra points for showing up in person or not, is kind of what we've got to understand.
Aaron.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other thing is that government meetings are required to be made available remotely as well. So it kind of is that crossover where it's also challenging because you all are an advisory to the Board of Commissioners, which is why your meetings are public meetings and you run into the public meetings law and having to make it available to everyone. So if you then say to them, I know it's a hybrid meeting, I know that a remote option is available, but you can't use it, that gets rather awkward. So definitely encouraging people to be in person is great, but we have to have the hybrid option, I believe.
So I
Think-
think, oh,
Parker, do you
About
need a motion to move
ADUs?
forward on this?
I can't remember why it's 3 units or more, and that limits our ability to, give money for ADUs, which are only 1 unit. So I know this is,
Oh.
I mean, eligibility is,
That is because, the funds meant for bulk
Multi-family.
developments.
Yeah.
So we started dwindling our fund for single
oh, I see,
occupancy. We're not gaining enough housing
right.
for the use of our money, from what I remember
Gotcha.
from our
Yeah.
conversations on that.
It's a scale issue. It's a land availability issue. It's trying to get those bigger lift projects in. But you know, this year, because of CERTA being available to help with ADUs, I'm a little less concerned about it, but maybe next year, if we wanted to consider a way for ADUs to be applied for, maybe a kind of parallel track or something, that's a conversation we can have as we gear up for next year, if that's all right.
Because people do ask occasionally, and I'm like, wait, it has to be 3 or more.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
But we want ADUs, but it has to be.
Qualified for CERTA, so.
yes, exactly. It's CERTA will have the option for right now for ADUs.
Right. Right.
And hopefully be able to pay the FTC fees for the ADUs.
Dave, that's a question?
Parker, do you
Alright.
need a motion to carry this forward?
I think you're muted, Dave.
I am. I don't. Can you hear me now? No.
No, we can't hear you.
Still can't
Some
hear you.
people can hear me.
Oh, there he is.
Okay, do you need a motion to move this forward?
No.
Uh,
I think it's his source.
I think, David, you're having a microphone challenge. I don't know.
It might be
He's
delayed
not.
because we hear you fine.
Yeah, we can hear you online, so.
Really? I can hear Aaron and everyone else but
Dave.
Well,
Dave.
David would like to know if you need a motion to move this forward.
Unless there's
We do,
any other
because
conversation,
it's launches.
before we do, I would like clarity on the highlighted section of the page.
Pre-development and initiation projects will only be eligible for 1 award per project.
That sounds good for me. Could you just say that one more time and
Yeah.
just read it in?
So pre-development and initiation projects will only be eligible for 1 award per project. And I'll give you this, so you.
With that amendment to it, I would then seek a motion for approval.
So moved.
Move to approve with the amendment that was just made.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor, please,
Discussion.
do we need to have any further discussion about that? See no hands raised, so let's go ahead and, I think what I'm gonna do is everybody online that would like commission members, if you would just raise your hand. And if not, we'll count against, and then anybody here, we will do raise your hand instead of doing A's or nays. So all those in favor?
Great.
Thank you. Any against? All right. Well, thank you. Parker, you've got your framework.
Great.
Proceed.
We will put out an announcement. This will be opening in October this month. Give people a lot of time. I will post this to our Production Solutions Fund webpage and make it available.
Great.
I've been jumping around a little bit because my coordinator report touched on a lot of these items for later in the agenda, but I did want to revisit one that covers a couple of things. Heidi Holzgraf has resigned from the Housing Commission. So we do have an empty seat available. In addition, I've been talking with the county commissioner's office, and because Corin is a direct replacement for Marlisa at CARE, we can fill that seat with her without doing the full application or open for application. The rest of the seats we will need to open up, make the press release, and to move forward on filling those seats. But yes, I just wanted to make that announcement. So we
How
are,
many seats total?
right now, we have 2 available seats, but one is the nonprofit seat. So it is just a single at-large seat that is available at the moment.
Oh, did Gail take our South County representative?
I believe Dave is actually the South.
Oh,
County
Dave.
representative,
Okay.
rep.
Great.
So those are, yeah, at-large spots. And
And then Corin's appointment would be going to commissioners.
yes, going to commissioners for the nonprofits. So Corin, by the next meeting, you should be a full housing commission member. Sorry, this has taken a little bit to get going. It's always trying to do that economy of scale, and sometimes I get burned. All right, with that, I think, Michelle.
Yeah. So, the topic of Parker's capacity has today's, discussions. And even though he is getting a, I believe it's an office specialist to position, for providing some additional support for the work that he does. And they may be able to take on some of the function of the outreach, duties for this, to manage the social media, LinkedIn pages, putting together packets of information for city councilors. There's quite a bit involved in doing outreach. And so the committee has talked about the possibility of hiring a contractor to do a few hours a month of that work. The Public Health Department, Tillamook County, Community Health Centers contracts with Renee Altemar for, I'm not sure the exact amount of time, but she's in support of the work of Tillamook County Wellness. And as coordinator of Tillamook County Wellness, I work directly with her on that. And so I just asked if she had capacity and interest to submit a proposal or some time to devote. She also works on contract for the chamber doing the same work. So putting together press releases, social media posts, pushing those things out through the appropriate channels, et cetera, to get the word out about things that we're trying to build awareness and education around. So she has provided me with a proposal to share with you all, and I've shared it with Parker. The scope of work would be social media management, content creation, press and media outreach, and additional services as needed that would fall within the scope. The hourly rate proposed is 27 an hour, and the proposed number of hours would be up to 10 hours per month based on the needs of the committee. Total contract value for the 12-month period not to exceed $3,240. She maintains professional liability insurance and demonstrated proficiency in these roles. So I don't know what the next step would be, but we wanted to get your feedback on the proposal and thank you.
Sorry, I didn't have this printed out. Apologies.
Oh, that's okay. Luckily I found it on.
Yes.
I guess what is the next steps because of this is an expenditure, Parker? Is that something that has to, if say example, we all think this is a great idea and make a recommendation, what is the next steps?
This next step would be for you to make a recommendation. Perhaps we could either write a letter to that effect or whatnot. This is something I would then take to the county commissioners to get a budget approved for it out of our Fund 122. So with your recommendation, I would then take it to the county commissioners and they can ask their questions at that time.
I just want to comment that I just definitely think this is something that we need to take off the load, both from the outreach because they too are volunteers, just like the rest of us, and have limited time to give, and also Parker's just swamped in it. And I believe it's in a limited duration contract to a year max. So that way it would give enough capacity during this transition period while they're still going through the hiring process for that position. So
So we might revisit this next year.
we may, I would think we'd want to at that point, depending on capacity.
Yeah.
And I think skill sets, if the OS2 comes in and is really technically savvy and is running gangbusters on working with developers and projects, and this isn't in their wheelhouse, it might make sense to continue the contract. And if they're a millennial, super savvy, me, you do all those things and more.
So I can make a
Well, if they're
motion on
Gen
this.
Z, maybe we get a TikTok channel.
There you go.
And you mentioned, Michelle, going through the appropriate channels, so I assume this person would then talk to you about things like how to post on the county's Facebook.
Yeah.
They
And
would have
things
to
that
get
are,
administrative.
Yes.
They'll go through all their administrative
Right.
training.
right,
The other thing I really like about this is that the outreach committee has so much outreach to do that is direct to planning commissions, to city councils over the next year, as we engage in housing production strategies, as we do things like get Merle going countywide, as we get the word out about CERTA. A lot of this will be done with, in person in front of city councils where they can ask questions and get feedback. And so having someone cover the digital space very intentionally will kind of help us shift focus to that area.
Dave, you have a question?
I was gonna make a motion to move this
Please
forward.
don't get it.
For Dave, I don't know why.
Translation.
Sorry, Dave would like to make a motion to move this forward.
Thank you, Dave. All right, is there a second?
Oh, actually, Corin has a comment, I believe.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, reading the proposal of activity, I might suggest, I think definitely should move it forward. I have a millennial daughter who owns her own social marketing company that does just this. So 2 comments, I would be more specific with the statement of will regularly post content. I would quantify that in a more specific way so that then we have something to review. Regularly doesn't give much. It's an assumption that would be, is that daily, weekly, monthly? I would work to quantify that if possible, as well as that's a really good rate. That is a friends and family discount rate for sure. So that is a positive thing. Just comment.
Thank you for confirming that. I would agree.
And thank you for saying that, Corin.
Yes, and I think that the outreach committee has identified that we would really like to be posting weekly. And frankly, we haven't been consistent at that. And so this will help us tremendously because we have content queued up to go out. It's just a matter of getting the administrative side of things rolling.
And is that something that should we make a motion to amend that portion of the contract to include weekly?
Yeah.
Sure.
So Dave, would you like to amend your motion? I hear a nod.
So moved.
I would like to
So I
make
have,
the motion with the proposed amendments.
is there anybody that would like to second that amended motion?
Yeah, I can second that.
Okay, great. And going forward, is there anybody else have any further discussion? All right, with that, if anybody online and everybody else are in favor, please raise your hands or say aye.
Thanks.
Excellent. And is there any against? All right, seeing none, motion passes as amended.
yeah, that's cool.
That's super exciting.
Yes, that is.
Yes.
Is there anything else, Parker, on your housing commission report?
No, I believe that is it.
Okay. And you already discussed the housing commissioner's vacancy.
I did.
So are we gonna have a time frame to which you're gonna move forward on posting?
I think we will just begin at the speed of the capacity of the commissioner's office, and then executive committee will traditionally be the ones doing the interviews. But if we need to have more people, if someone isn't available, we have leaned on other people in the past.
Or we could promote the vacancy immediately, right?
Yes.
Well, I would think, well, I guess we could post the vacancy immediately, but would we want them to direct them to an application?
Which we should have.
We do have
Okay.
that all materials online. Yeah.
Karen?
I think this has to go through the commissioner's office because it's a commissioner appointment. I appreciate the desire to move forward quickly, but you can't jump ahead of the commissioners on this one because it's an official appointment. So I appreciate the energy, and I think Parker's probably working with Isabel in our office to get it posted. And once we have it posted, we'd be delighted to have all of the other publicity go out.
Perfect.
Thank you. for
Sorry, public meeting stuff and advisory committee stuff there. I know that you all, the speed of government is slow, and I apologize for that, but transparency through government is why it moves slowly.
I mean, yeah, they're paying on it, but they're not.
So we're talking Heidi's
So.
empty position now, and so we could have 15, but we have 13.
We have a capacity of 14.
14.
And we have 13 members right.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
No, we have 12 members right now. Corin would be 13, as she replaced Marlisa, and then there's one empty at large at the moment.
At large.
Did she ever come in and ask?
And since Dave isn't here, is there anybody from the finance committee that would like to brief us?
I'd be happy to. As Kristen is not here, but the chairs joined us for a finance committee meeting yesterday. We heard from Victor Gennaro, who is a local contractor, and he talked to us about his desire to see funding from state sources be available as a sort of investment revolving loan opportunity. I don't think that is something that we can necessarily do or a way to structure it that would work, but he did have some really great ideas of how public money could maybe work a little harder in certain types of housing investments. I think that there's a place for that question, but it's not here. That is more about law and, application of public funding that is kind of above our ability to change or impact. But it was very interesting to see the creative ways that skilled developers are out there seeking new ways to structure funding. The goal, he's trying to operate strictly in the first-time homebuyer VA loan space. And we were able to give him some direction on other funding sources that can operate there, specifically USDA loans and the power that they have in our communities. Kristen brought up a lot about kind of terms of commitment and how long things stay in the affordable space. That's something that's really important to her. And I know that she's very concerned about all of the housing in Oregon that is on a 30-year affordable commitment that is expiring and becoming market rate housing as it ages out of the public support commitment periods they made when they built it. In this case, he was considering a pretty low commitment of affordability and prohibition on short-term rentals in these types of housing. So we kind of revisited conversations of where public money is supporting housing, what sort of restrictions need to be on things like short-term rentals, and how long something would need to be owner-occupied. So a lot of really great questions were raised, and I think that Victor is on a really great trajectory to being a considerate and principled developer, but our ability to help those types of market rate or near market rate projects are limited. And we, as the Housing Commission, our mission is more for those income restricted properties as the space we operate in. And while it's really good that he's trying to create affordable home ownership opportunities for people like veterans who need it, it is still kind of in that more market rate space. And without those affordability commitments, it's difficult for us to take part in. So that was our finance committee meeting. Carrie or Mark, is there anything else from that meeting you guys would like to share?
It was a very interesting and some pretty unique ideas. And I had to think about it for a minute. Just in regards to he essentially was proposing an interest only kind of a construction loan.
Yeah.
Is what the proposal was that he had, and it really isn't our space to do that sort of work. But it brought up a very interesting thing that maybe working with some banks or some private investment firms that we could create space for something like that. Not necessarily us, but that could be because he was just expressed the desire for like a construction loan or interest only carrying period. To me, it just was like, okay, this is a construction loan where you meet milestones and then you get reimbursement. It just really wasn't a fit for our funding sources.
Yeah, he's dreaming big.
Yeah.
FHA loans. I mean, I was just thinking the massive details that a contractor builder would have to go through with FHA. I assume, having had an FHA loan as an individual 40 years ago, it just boggled my mind. But he was very excited. It was very positive.
It did raise the question, would a concept like this be something that we would want to see apply for our initiation or a dreamer grant? And it's a little bit hard to know because it's more of a concept than like a project. And so an argument could be made that 3 or more units would be produced. But it did make me kind of reconsider some of our requirements. Ultimately, we decided that this is something that we would love to discuss at the Housing Commission and discuss its viability in a bigger group setting. But it's kind of unknown whether or not it would qualify. So it's a conversation that might come up through this cycle.
I think it might be worth like sitting down with like somebody in lending. So I know that I'm pretty sure VA has a construction loan that they like linked. Like it's a process that's starting to happen a little bit more. Like how do some of these VA, FHA, I don't know if USDA has a construction loan, but being able to take these programs that already exist and help move them along. And I know a lender. So that's why I like talking to somebody that is a lender about some of those would be a good place to be able to start with some of that.
Yeah. And
Because if those programs already exist and there's a way that we can support them, that's a cool thing, but.
Well, perhaps at the next finance committee meeting, we'll get a lender to come and just sort of walk us through what Victor was telling us and help us understand the viability. And if it's something that maybe we can support through policy advocacy, that might be a more appropriate space for the commission to be involved in something like that.
This kind of dovetails with something that I've really been wanting to see come to fruition, whether or not that's realistic or not, but like basically an angel investor pool that's local, because they're the only ones that would be motivated to do this, to support their own community. And if we had a lender that was willing to do this, could we get some private equity into the pool to, that would be willing to participate and have just a lower rate of return on their investment, but knowing what they're supporting.
And that's something we've long talked about being a powerful tool that could be in this community. Also, the rate of return that he was offering was nothing to turn your nose up at. He was looking at a 9% return or something over the 18-month cycle of.
We're looking at communities where second home ownership is broadly, I mean, people have income, disposable income that live here. And I don't think we are tapping into the capital that is.
Well, this conversation has come up a lot about community investment, community capital and whatnot. I know that the Housing Commission is not the correct place to administer a program like that or for a program to live like that, but it could be the correct space to investigate, like where would be the right place? What would be needed? I don't know. So I don't know if that starts to escape our mission or bounds, but I do think that, like Michelle said, there's so much opportunity, even at the below 120% or below 100% for community capital investment to maybe have a role. So
I think it houses a place of being able to at least start those conversations and generate community like awareness around like, hey, this might be an option. Who wants a seat at this table to be able to start this conversation? And then once the table's formed, like take it and run with like, yeah.
well, just because this starts to approach that weird intersection of government and capital and private equity, I think what I would like to do is to perhaps bring one of the county attorneys to our next housing commission meeting and just sort of discuss what is okay for us to talk about supporting in that space and what is being like, hey, no, this is just private enterprise, guys, like hands off. I don't know. I just don't have the info to really inform us. And so finding somebody who could talk about what options would look like and what would be allowed and what is in the ethically safe
I feel like
space.
if we can say, here's a USDA loan, linked to this source, and there's this source, and there's this source, and there's also this other source over here that supports housing production, that's in the private sector and, funded in a different way. And I just feel like it would be appropriate for us to be able to do that. I realize we have to find out if that's permissible or not.
Well, I know there's been a lot of interest from housing commission members who individually want to participate in some sort of community housing investment group at that level and in that space. I just don't know what this group's role would be in assisting to set that up or if we should.
So there's not currently, since I don't know how county government works, I'm more from a nonprofit background where there were fundraisers as part of the institution, and there was a whole department trying to raise money for endowments, basically.
So one of the principal differences between what Victor is looking for and what we and how we operate is Victor is offering a return. And it would not be appropriate for government or especially this group to be investing with an expected return. But that is something that has been requested, like of some sort of group where people who want to invest in a principled manner in housing can go and take a lower return in order to be investing in the activities that they feel passionately about or they think are needed. Again, I love that existing. I just don't know if this is the space to assist in even setting something like that up. So I think I would love to hear Commissioner Scar's thoughts on this, but I think the best I can offer is to bring a county attorney who can tell us either absolutely not, guys, you are crazy, or like, yes, maybe there's a path that you could help, but you would need to pass it off very, very quickly. I do not know what we would be
I
told.
feel like it's just galvanizing the right people to set up the infrastructure externally. That's where I feel like we're.
Private capital wants to go behave like private capital, they can privately capital their way to it.
But I want to jump to Kristen's concern, because that's more within our bailiwick of the expiring of affordable housing by the 30-year, because she was very passionate about it. And it made me wonder where we came up with our standard 10-year formula with our housing production. It is 10 years, right?
Is our minimum.
So why not 15 or 20? Just throwing that out there. In part because of Kristen saying 99 years is what it should be, which she said.
Historically, we have had the 10-year limit that it's been here as long, so we haven't had an active discussion about that being a minimum. But in the previous years, the greater your commitment to terms of affordability, the more score you got on your card.
And also on the 10-year, the original backing kind of coincided with the tax exemption program.
Yeah.
Because that was a minimum, that was a time period, that was the maximum that you could get a tax exemption for.
Gotcha.
Was a 10-year when that was
Is
created.
that still true?
I think there could
Yeah,
be.
thank you, Carrie. That is because we looked at it and said, we don't want to have these two things be different because we have folks who are likely to use both of them. And for our tracking and our ability to manage the tax abatement program and the Housing Production Solutions Fund, having the 10 years align for our requirement made the most sense.
Gotcha.
And I think this is just a theory on my part, but if it's a shorter term requirement, you might attract more developers. And then you can build more, and then the more stock you have, the more supply and demand, levels out the affordability. That's
And also
theory.
traditionally, 10 years is about the average of holding period for a single owner. So if it's an owner developer, usually after 10 years, sometimes they're gonna be wanting to sell that investment, recoup their funding from that investment and then move forward. So it is kind of following some traditional turnovers as well.
I believe that in my tenure here, we have only supported one project that had anything less than a 30-year affordability commitment.
I was thinking, let's see.
But to Kristen's concern, are there any loans or grants or public monies out there that address that aging out and what happens to those places?
Yes, how I see traditionally, these are, it's more of a time period when you might need to go for more public money because a low income project after 30 years typically has some renovations or the structure itself needs a complete renovation. And what you don't want is to have a building somewhere that it needs to be perpetually affordable, but doesn't make enough money to keep itself in good repair. And so you can end up with, I don't want to use the projects. That is a big problem they ran into, when you think of, that is part of it. They did not have enough financial support to maintain maintenance, to maintain a quality of life. So what we have is a preservation program in the state of Oregon. And so every year when they set aside money for affordable housing, they also put into a pool preservation dollars. And we actually have a preservation dollar project in our county right now. Darren Murphy in the Bayside Commons is doing that senior care facility. That is one where that's a great example. That project has sat fallow for many years because it couldn't maintain itself at its cash flow level. So someone like Darren Murphy had to come in, get more money from the state, and the state gives money to preservation projects. And preservation projects are projects that were built or partially supported with public money initially. So this is their way of reinvesting in projects they have traditionally. And so that project, which had run its course on its affordability commitment, will now be retransformed into more senior income restricted housing. And so that's one of the ways that we do it. You could see that if you made something permanently an affordable project, you have to permanently then support that and how you do it. So
Challenging if it's not a state funded and you don't have access to the preservation dollars, then what?
it can create problems, but if it's available for someone wants to buy the property, knock it over and build something new, would you want it to be restricted to, well, first you need the state to fund your project, would be the only people who could do it in that situation eventually.
So did Darren apply for this preservation?
He did.
Monies?
He did.
Okay.
And, full transparency on how the conversation with us and Darren went on that project, because he came and applied for funding that he did not get,
Right.
was he wanted us to be the local money in. But the timeline on it is he identified us as a potential source, got the preservation dollars saying, oh, looks like you've got some, public options or local options you can get buy-in from. We then evaluated his project. He told us, hey, I've got the money, we're going either way. And so that is why we passed on that project, because he had secured that funding. But you can question how good we could feel about that, saying, hey, like you identified as the funding that we did not come through for you on. is kind of what happened, but he still got his funding because he had identified there was local funding available was a requirement, is my understanding of that. So in the future, when we get those types of projects, we can ask those kinds of questions and better understand what our role has been identified in supporting those kind of preservation projects. Because they, like a lot of them, have requirements to go out and find out what other funding sources are available in the local community to help those projects go.
And I guess the long-term solution is a lot of, usually that's done for restrictions on building or income. A lot of that's done through some sort of deed restriction, where they actually are committing themselves to a certain time period, preventing that project to be used. I know like the Habitat for Humanity has worked on methodologies in their contracts now to kind of keep those projects in a permanent low-income state.
That-
Where, so I mean, there are mechanisms out there to maintain affordability long-term. But it's been a trial and error, I think.
Thompson Springs.
Yeah.
Thompson Springs, Tillamook Bay Commons is going to be in a nonprofit that has, the only place that could go would be to the housing authority. So that is pretty much a locked in forever affordability commitment.
Yeah.
It starts to get a little easier to have long-term affordability commitments when you enter into the middle income space, because those projects kick off just enough of a return to not only maintenance of the building, but to fill coffers up. So that's working with nonprofits. Nonprofits are an excellent tool to maintain affordability. Yeah. That was a really good conversation.
Well, it looks like a legislative committee update. Really don't have any. We've been technically been on hiatus. We will probably have a kind of a pre-planning stage meeting. We haven't decided on that date yet. So hang tight.
Well, and Carrie, one thing that's coming up right over this last month is people like DLCD are issuing their post-legislative reports. And so we
Yeah.
can compile all of those and then take a look at what every agency pulled out as critical for them.
And then also timing on planning for the short session in January, because we need to look at what the schedules and deadlines are.
We can even check in on what's going on right now.
So we will be coming back, so please just pay attention to the website.
Sure.
I think it would be the best source.
And I think maybe we'll send out an update after our next meeting.
Yeah. Michelle, do you have anything on outreach?
We talked a lot about all of the things that we've been putting information out or creating content to share out on a specific cadence. So we crafted a press release for the CERTA grant funding. We have planned communications for the Housing Production Solutions Fund. And everything's kind of teed up and ready to go as the timeline is rolling out. The next step will be Merle, which, yeah, I said, we need an FAQ. And then Carrie sent me 2 links to some 25-page. And I'm like, that's not what I had in mind. So we've got our work cut out for us with that one to try to distill it to salient information that the average person can understand and use to, promote development by the uninitiated. We also still are kind of sharing out information around Senate Bill 406, middle housing, changes with the cities, and we've been present at some of the city council meetings where those have been discussed. So anybody else from the committee, anything I'm missing?
Well, the city council, I guess it was 2 city council meetings back in Manzanita, I presented as a housing commissioner and said middle housing 406 and sort of a basic blurb about what it is and people aren't as educated. That's probably the wrong word. People don't know much about it. So I think going out to maybe places that like planning commissions perhaps, or city councils where those people need to know as much as they can without being overwhelmed by too much detail. And they have questions, and then I could say, well, if I don't know that, Parker, here's contact information. So that,
And I'd just like to add, so the McCray project had an outreach meeting where they invited the immediate local community to come and see the master plans they were considering, to get feedback on what the community would like to see in that space, to answer questions, dispel mystery and fear. And I gotta say, it was a really, really effective way to reach out for that project. And I want to see more of that, especially project-specific outreach. Watching how, so they got that grant from the Built Environment DEQ group. So they got $25,000 to hire an architecture firm to help with a master plan. And part of that was they put together this community outreach event that was just about this project. I would love to see in the future housing commissions, or the housing commission and outreach kind of engaging in some of those activities. Because I saw just the very profound effect on how you really get to bring in members of your community and heading off the kind of problems that we see at ARL's meetings and whatnot, and some of the spiciness in Manzanita. One or two of these events appropriately ahead of time and really making sure people feel heard and incorporating their feedback can do so much to get ahead of those kind of challenges. So I'm going to be considering ways that we can engage in that type of outreach more because it was very, very effective.
Do you know if anybody took any photos at that event?
We do have some photos we can share.
I think that just anytime if people are at meetings or in community settings, as long as the people in the photograph have given like written consent. It's one of the better ways to share information, to get people to, pay attention and become more aware, is seeing people involved and recognizing, oh, I know that person, or these are my neighbors, and maybe this is something that's relevant to me that I might want to pay attention to.
Yeah. I will say on that project specifically, it's raising an interesting question just of when we are involved with a project that has an aspect of housing and then also some industry or public good, it just makes our role a little more murky. Because again, like there's some housing, but there's also job creation going on. There's also just different types of activities that might be a little beyond the scope of us. So we kind of have a smaller seat in that project table. But just something I want to consider as we engage in those types of multi-use projects in the future, where we draw our lines of involvement.
Well, I know the one meeting I went to up there, I told them that it wasn't part of what we do, so I was there that day as a local contractor. Opinion, because you have to be able to draw that, and I mean, I say a lot of times there's a contractor, not housing commission, because I know people aren't gonna like what I have to say.
I'm the same way, like with my community wellness hat on, like that project is very aligned with our community health improvement planning initiatives. And so I can be representing my professional role and rather than the commission or, both.
Yeah.
So there are definite overlaps for several of us.
Yeah.
And Parker, just to wrap things up, we're steaming ahead here. Do you have anything on the development committee update?
Boy, this was going to be the month I was going to relaunch the development committee, but Serta and Merle really took all of the wind needed from my sails. And also I had my first vacation since starting the job this month. So please just provide me with a little patience on getting that spun back up to speed. I do really need to get that group together. That is where we expect to do a lot of the housing production strategy work. So I will be working to get the development committee back up and fully going this month.
Great. All right, well, last thing on our agenda. Is there anybody present that would like to make public comment here or in the room or online? All right, seeing no eager opportunities, we are gonna adjourn our meeting at 10:33. Thank you guys, and we'll give you a half hour back of your time. Have a great morning.
Thank you.